Was Zeus, the most powerful god in Greek mythology, really a hero? Many ancient stories tell of his deceit, abduction, and forced relationships, which were later portrayed as romance. Today, we will understand those same stories through a modern lens. This is an educational video. We are not glorifying any violence. The purpose is to look at the stories through the lens of consent and understand how the language of old times beautifully covered up violence. Zeus is the king of the Greek gods, the god of the sky and lightning. Countless stories focus on power, rule, and family. But there is another layer to these stories, where he disguises himself, deceives, and seduces or forces women Charsha girls into sexual relationships. In ancient texts, abduction was described as romance, deception as divine miracle, and forced intercourse as a love story. In today's language, all of these are sexual violence and absence of consent. Story: Zeus disguises himself as a bull and kidnaps Europa. Described as a romantic journey, it actually shows a lack of power balance and consent. Zeus disguises himself as a swan and mates with Leda. In many versions, the intent is unclear, often described as divine love, though there is an element of deception in the story. Zeus descends on Danae, who is locked in a tower in the form of a rain of gold. This is beautifully metaphorized in the poem, but the main question remains, where is the consensus? Seducing Io, then turning her into a cow, followed by relentless torture. Punishment on the victim, not on the ruler. This is also a pattern. A deceitful relationship with Callisto. In many stories, Zeus is in disguise. Result: Callisto is punished, ostracized, and transformed. Same again, victim blame. Deceiving Alcman by disguising herself as her husband. Clear deception. This leads to the birth of Heracles, but the deception is covered up in the story as a prequel to the hero. The kidnapping of young Ganymede, an imbalance of power and age. This was normalized as divine favor, but it is also an example of exploitation. Many stories portray Hera as a jealous wife, often punishing the victimized women. This reflects the age-old cultural pattern of victim blaming, where the victim is targeted rather than the perpetrator. Poets and playwrights glorified those in power. Marriage abduction, patriarchy, and power politics were saved from moral questions by calling them divine love. But today we know that consent should be clear, enthusiastic, and free. Myths are not sacred texts, but cultural documents. Describe what society considered normal. When we read them, we must recognize the words that hide violence. When we call abduction, elopement, and deception divine love, real suffering becomes invisible. The stories of Zeus's power warn us. No relationship without consent is love. As old as the stories are, it is our responsibility to challenge victim blaming. If you found this analysis valuable, share the video and comment. Which myth should be understood through the lens of consent?